Come join us for a Nats Chat hangout at Walters just before the All-Star break Wednesday, July 8th, before the Nationals host the Astros. Come chat about Foster Griffin, Curtis Mead, PJ Poulin, and wish Jeremy, the owner of Walters, a happy birthday. Walters is located just across the street from the ballpark.
The pitch. Swing a high drive, deep right field, toward the corner. Way back it goes, toward the bullpen. It's gone! Garcia's homered again. He cuts the Pirates' lead in half. It's 4-2. A new single-season career high, his 19th home run, his third in this series. Garcia stays hot here at Nationals Park.
Now the set. Lord delivers the pitch. Swinging a ground ball. Past the diving Garcia. Base hit right field. Pirates will take the lead. This will score 2. And heading to third is Mangum as Davis and Triolo are across the plate on a single past the diving Garcia by Connor Griffin. And he drives in his 24th and 25th runs of the year. And here in the 8th inning with one out, Pirates have regained the lead. It's Pittsburgh 6 and Washington 4. And the pitch swung on, driven to deep right. Wood going back, he can only watch. This one is gone. Goodbye. An absolute line drive rocket by Brandon Lau for a 3-run home run. And they have broken this game open here with 5 runs at the top of the 8th. It's now Pittsburgh 9 and Washington 4.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. We are recording this podcast in the early evening hours of Sunday, July 5th, 2026. Monday is July 6th, 2026. The one-year anniversary of Nats managing principal owner Mark Lerner on Sunday evening, July 6, 2025, announcing having fired Nats president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo and having fired manager Davey Martinez. Here we are, a year later, and the Nats are one of the biggest surprises in MLB. But the Nats over the weekend did lose 2 out of 3 games against the Pittsburgh Pirates at Nationals Park Sunday afternoon, an 11-5 loss to the Pirates. Despite the Nats overcoming a 4-0 third-inning deficit, the game, rather long, lasted for 3 hours and 28 minutes. You talk about pace of play. I don't know, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred may increase the suspension for Cade Cavalli given how long this game took. But the Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now 46 and 45, run differential of +9. Pirates have the same record, 46 and 45, but with a run differential of +33. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach them at 202-486-3535. The Nats on Sunday morning announced having designated outfielder Robert Hassell III for assignment. Quite the shocking move given what Hassell had been perceived to be, although if you've been following how Hassell has been doing, maybe the move isn't so shocking. So we'll get to that. You know, Mark, the Pirates are a good team. There's no real shame in losing this series, but for the Nats to lose the final 2 games by a combined score of 18-6, that was disappointing.
Yeah, that's not ideal at all. And particularly this game, you get really a dud of a start from Cade Cavalli, who, as it turns, we found out, was dealing with some dehydration and lightheadedness, which is completely understandable given the weather conditions. But you lose him early in the 3rd inning, and yet you're still in a position where the game is tied going to the 8th. And that's a game that's right there for the taking. And for all the woes that the Nats have had with their bullpen, the Pirates bullpen has been going through almost as much itself over the last month or so. So to then see that go from a tie game in the 8th to a blowout loss that quickly, that was pretty disappointing to see. And there's reasons behind it all. And a lot was asked of the bullpen on this day because of Cavalli getting knocked out early and because of the heat. And, you know, guys are being asked to throw multiple innings. But the Pirates had to deal with the same thing. And to come out of that, not just losing the game, but losing in a blowout in a game that was very close late, they should be disappointed in that one.
So with Cade Cavalli, what he revealed after the game is notable, that he was dealing with dehydration and lightheadedness. Obviously, this has been an eventful last few days for Cade Cavalli. And, he was so good in that game in which we had the incident, right? The Tuesday night 8-1 win at the Boston Red Sox. And then he comes out in this game and it was rough. 4 runs, 3 earned and 2 into third innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run and 5 singles. He issued 2 walks and a balk, recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 63 pitches over his 2 into third innings, committed a costly error as well. Top of the second, allowed 3 runs, 2 earned on 3 singles, a walk, into throwing error on a pickoff attempt. Top of the third, gave up a leadoff homer by Brian Reynolds to right center field for a 4-0 Pirates lead. And what was especially troubling was that his velocity diminished from inning to inning. And that, raises all kinds of concerns, but it sounds like that was just a function of the dehydration and lightheadedness.
Yeah, Blake Butera and Dale Gilbert, their head athletic trainer, saw the exact same thing, and that's why they went out there to check on him in the third inning to make sure there wasn't something, physically like an ailment or an injury. And Cavalli insisted, no, it's not that. I'm gassed. He said he was fine in the first inning. The second inning, he reached back to throw a pitch, and he said it just wasn't quite there.
My body reacted the way it did to it in the second. Threw his pitch where it kind of got after one and got a little lightheaded.
And that's when he was feeling lightheadedness, even had a headache. At one point in between innings, he tried to go down into the tunnel and cool down some. He said he prepped as well as he could for several days leading up to this. He knew what the weather was supposed to be like. And he's, accustomed to pitching in warm weather, having come from Oklahoma. And as he pointed out, he's, pitched here in D.C. a number of times now in hot weather. And it just got to him, plain and simple. And you can look at why that might be. Let's remember he was pitching a day earlier than originally planned, although it does sound like he knew for a few days this was going to happen. I don't think this was a spur-of-the-moment decision by the Nationals. He was disappointed, and he felt bad about it because he felt like he let his team down when they needed him. And it just put such added strain on the bullpen on a day when those guys, I'm sure they would have loved to only have to go 1 inning apiece to finish out the game. And instead, in most cases, they had to go 2 innings. And you saw the effect of that because the second inning often was far less successful than the first inning was.
These last 2 outings, I feel like, are so Cade Cavalli in a nutshell. Like, we see how great he can be as he was superb at the Red Sox on Tuesday night. And then we see how he can struggle. And, he's still a developing, evolving pitcher. We get that. But it can be a little tantalizing, right? Because you'll see what he does in a game like Tuesday nights and you're like, okay, this is who he is. And it's like, well, no, that's not who he is. That's who he can be. That's who he is at times. But he still can be a guy who goes out there and, doesn't last for more than a few innings. We've seen him do that multiple times this season, have these really abbreviated starts.
Now, the one thing with this one, for the most part, really for those first 2 innings, it was mostly singles and a lot of balls on the ground that were just well placed. It wasn't necessarily bad defense, just balls that got through. And so there was a little bit of unluckiness, I think, to that. Now, he did give up a home run on a bad pitch to Brian Reynolds in the third. And as we said, the velocity is down and he clearly physically just was not where he needed to be for this start. So yes, there are disappointing things about all of that. But I think there also was a little bit of element of flukiness to this, just in the lack of loud contact for the most part as he gave up those 4 runs.
This was his last start before the All-Star break. Safe to say that?
In theory, he could still pitch a week from now. Now, let's say that the suspension occurs and potentially it's reduced. And we're going to find out a lot more on Monday, I believe, when MLB will hold these hearings and make some rulings on them. And they could reduce the suspension. And if they reduced it to 5 games, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the team's off Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In theory, he could start Sunday's first half finale against the Yankees. Do I think that's going to happen? I'm going to guess no. I'm going to guess whether it's either because of the suspension or because the Nationals say, especially given the way this one went, we need to watch his workload here some. We knew that was going to be the case anyways, coming off of the Tommy John from a few years ago and just the fact he hasn't ever been in the big leagues for a whole year. There's a golden opportunity to give him an extended break here before coming out of the All-Star break. Make sure that he's 100% good to go for the second half because he's going to be important for them if they are actually contending. So that would be my guess, but I'm not going to say 100% that he won't pitch again before the All-Star break because there is a possibility if the suspension's handed down, if the appeal gets him 2 games knocked off and he only has to serve 5, in theory, he could go again on Sunday.
Updated stats for Cade Cavalli: 19 games, all starts, ERA 3.88, WHIP 138, strikeouts per 9 innings 10.20. Still overall really good. Just a little bit of variance when it comes to Cade Cavalli, as we discussed. The Nats bullpen. Not a good series for the bullpen, and certainly not a good game in this game. Although there were in this game some really impressive performances by Nats relievers. We had 5 Nats relief pitchers combining to allow 7 runs in 6 2/3 innings. Eddie Yean made his MLB regular season debut, and he was terrific. He tossed 2 scoreless and hitless innings with 3 strikeouts, and there was quite a bit of irony in him making this debut in a game against the Pirates. Eddie Yean, Eddie, Y-E-A. Does that name sound familiar? The Nats on Christmas Eve 2020 traded Eddie Yean as part of a 2-player package to the Pirates for first baseman Josh Bell. Well, Yean found his way back to the Nats. They on Sunday morning announced having selected his contract from AAA Rochester, and then shortly after the game ended, announced having optioned him back to Rochester, but he, in this outing, looked good. P.J. Poulin, he tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He in the top of the 5th faced 4 batters and got 2 outs. Orlando Rebolta tossed a perfect top of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Brad Lord allowed 5 runs in 1 1/3 innings, during which he threw 50 pitches. Now, he tossed a perfect top of the 7th. But then he unraveled in the top of the 8th, during which he allowed 5 runs on a home run, 3 singles and a walk. Among the singles, a 1-out, bases-loaded, opposite field 2-run single by Connor Griffin, who, by the way, put on a show in this game. Multiple standout defensive plays, big 2-run single here. This single going through the right side of the infield and past a diving Luis Garcia Jr. at first base, put the Pirates up 6-4. And Lord had Griffin down at 1.12, and then Lord to the next and final batter he faced gave up a 1-out, 3-run homer by University of Maryland product Brandon Lau to right field on a 1-2 pitch to put the Pirates up 9-4, and Justin Lawrence allowed 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. So a rough game for the bullpen, and especially rough game for Brad Lord. Another game in which the lack of the strikeout really hurts the Nats. Griffin at one point was down 1-2. Lau at one point down 1-2. Each guy coming through with a big hit in that inning off Brad Lord. And like I said, some good stuff from Nats relievers in this game, but obviously the bad ended up overwhelming the good.
I believe that Brad Lord had 5 straight batters with 2 strikes and couldn't get any of them out. And that was a real point of discussion afterwards, that inability to put away hitters.
Just made some bad pitches and just didn't put guys away today.
He's not alone. We've talked about this with several of their relievers who are not big strikeout guys. It's one thing to get ahead. You got to be able to put them away and finish off the at-bat. And that came back to bite him. Now, that was, as you said, his 2nd inning. He throws 15 in his 1st inning. He gets the first batter of the 8th, and then some really long at-bats that push him all the way up to 50 pitches by the time he gives up the home run to Lau. And he was careful to say that he wasn't making excuses for any of it, but you got to believe that he got gassed at the end of that. And this is where you go all the way back to Cavalli and his struggles early on. It was almost guaranteed now that the bullpen was going to face something like this, because you're asking them to cover a lot of innings. And unless you're willing to go 1 inning apiece with everybody and use a bunch of guys, you're going to ask for multiple innings. And I think you saw in the case of Lord, the case of Justin Lawrence after that, they just weren't the same by the 2nd inning on this humid day. So I don't want to give Lord a free pass for it. There are things that he can and should take from this about how to get guys, to put them away with 2 strikes. But it wasn't a great situation for all of them to be in, to have to go multiple innings. Now, Yean was the best one at it, and that was really nice to see that he was able to do it. I'm sure he had a lot of adrenaline for his big league debut. I was disappointed to see them send him back down. I understand they need to clear a spot. They claimed a left-hander, Matt Krook, off waivers from the A's late Saturday. He's out of options. He has to be added to the roster, so I think we're going to see him on Monday, so somebody had to go. I liked what I saw from Yean. I know the team liked what they saw. Yeah, he'd be down for a day or 2 after that, but you'd like to see him again here before the All-Star break, as opposed to, say, a Riley Cornelio, who we've seen now and hasn't really been up to the challenge. So I was a little surprised and disappointed in that move.
Yeah, although, we have seen this multiple times this season where a reliever is brought up from the minors, looks good, and then gets sent right back down. This has happened plenty of times now, so I guess we shouldn't be too shocked anymore. But yeah, Yean, the stuff looked good. The composure looked good. He had a little bit of charisma to him, a little bit of pizzazz out there on the mound. He was fun to watch. So I would think we'll see him again at some point soon here.
You know who he reminded me of, and I'm sure others had the same thought? Fernando Rodney, a very much younger Fernando Rodney. He's got the same physical build and much younger than him. If you just took the cap and skewed it a little bit to the side, and if he did the old bow and arrow move at the end of that, it would have been a spitting image for Fernando Rodney. He came in on the bullpen card, by the way, for his big league debut. That's a big league move by him to do that on a 92-degree day. He's got some swagger, and I want to see more of him. I'm sure we will see more of him. It's unfortunate now that unless something else unusual happens, he's going to have to spend another 15 days at AAA before he comes back.
Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation, or your firm recently committed to $100 million in pro bono work that you disagree with? If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. Mason will work with you to create a marketing and business plan to pitch to new firms and dramatically increase your compensation and or day-to-day happiness in your new job. Mason has placed partners and associates in just about every large law firm in D.C. and New York, and he can provide plenty of testimonials from candidates he has placed on the outstanding service that they received. You need a strong advocate in your corner to find the best law firm out there for your future career. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
Imagine buying your kid a toy only to find the batteries aren't included, or buying furniture but missing the tools to build it. Frustrating, right? Now imagine the exact same feeling, but you're paying way more. That is what buying business software usually feels like. Fragmented, disconnected, and incredibly expensive. Odoo completely changes that. Odoo is a complete, fully integrated business suite where all your apps actually talk to each other. We're talking automated lead routing for your sales team, seamless AI integration, and intuitive point-and-click website builder. It's everything your business needs to scale, saving you time, headaches, and money. Stop piecing your software together. Go to odoo.com. That's odoo.com to learn more.
Works from the stretch all of the time. Now more of a leg kick that time, and Cruz swings and belts one to deep left center. Mangum back, looking up. This one is gone. Goodbye. In and out of section 102 and dropping down into the visitors' bullpen in left center field. Bang, zoom goes Dylan Cruz with his 6th home run of the year, his 18th run batted in. Nationals get one back here in the bottom of the 8th inning. It's now the Pirates 9 and the Nationals 5.
Well, the Nats offense in this 11-5 loss to the Pirates at Nationals Park on Sunday afternoon was good. 5 runs, 10 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 7 singles, 5 walks. The Nats did go just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, so that would be the nit to pick. But, you score 5 runs. I mean, that should be good enough to win. Luis Garcia Jr. homered again. He is the Nats starting first baseman, and number 2 batter went 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer, a single, and a stolen base. Garcia in the Nats 2-run third, a 1-out, 2-run homer to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 4-2. The Luis Garcia Jr. tear continues, and it's worth pointing out, and by now, I mean, people have picked up on this, but this wasn't just a June thing. His hot streak has spilled over into July. His slugging percentage now is at .561. James Woods is .533. Garcia's OPS is .874. He has created quite a bit of distance between himself and C.J. Abrams for number 2 among qualified Nats in OPS. 1 is Wood at .926. 2 is Garcia, .874. 3 is C.J. Abrams at .846. Just remarkable what Garcia is doing. And Dylan Cruz, he homered 2. He is the Nats starting center fielder and number 6 batter, 1 for 3 with a solo homer and a walk. Cruz and the Nats 1-run 8th, a 1-out solo homer to left field to cut the Nats deficit to 9-5. This was an odd game. I mentioned this I feel like gets forgotten. The Nats overcame a 4-0 third inning deficit. Like, we saw the offense actually do some really good things in this game, and then the game unfortunately became essentially a blowout with the Pirates scoring 5 runs in the top of the 8th and then 2 more in the top of the 9th.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what made this particularly frustrating from that standpoint. Now, I mean, Luis Garcia, this is remarkable what he's doing. He is legitimately one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball now for, a good 6 weeks or so. And hitting the ball with authority, hitting for power. It's just been a great thing to see. And I'm not saying I expect him to keep it up at this level the rest of the year, but it would be pretty surprising to see him completely fall apart from this. So that was great. It was nice to see Cruz hit a ball as hard as he did. But there were chances once they came back to tie the game to take the lead, and they just didn't have it in them. And again, against a Pirates bullpen that has had almost as many issues as the Nationals bullpen. And that's, to me, makes this feel like a real lost opportunity for them.
It is too bad that MLB discontinued the All-Star final vote. That's been gone for a few years now, because if the All-Star final vote was still a thing, and that was a thing in which you could cast votes for final members for All-Star teams via the internet, I think you could text a vote too, but Luis Garcia Jr. would be a perfect candidate for the All-Star final vote, because as we've discussed, this rise has come in recent weeks, and so, it's probably too late for people to pick up on it nationally, him to get voted into the game, even get selected by players for the game. But as a final vote candidate, he would have been so perfect for that.
Yeah, no, it would have been great. It was designed to acknowledge the guys who had strong cases but were left out for one reason or another and give him one last shot at making it, and he would fit into that description for sure. There are still roster changes, guys can pull out of the game. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I think it's less likely for him, for another first baseman to be added. Probably not going to happen. I did hear that a bunch of the pitchers for the National League are scheduled to throw this weekend, so there could be an opening for Foster Griffin before it's all said and done. We'll wait and see what happens with that. But certainly Garcia deserves consideration for it. I just don't know if they're going to be able to find a spot for him at this late juncture.
Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
Here's the pitch. Breaking ball, high fly ball, right center field. This has got a shot. It's out by the scoreboard, and it's gone. That's a long home run from Abimelec Ortiz on an 0-2 pitch.
Hey, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. If you're using chat to research your next home improvement project, forget the prompts. We've got all the details on a company that you can trust. For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. And did I mention that Window Nation backs each window with a lifetime transferable warranty? That's on top of team members double and triple checking their work from initial measurements to final installation. Reach out to Window Nation to get the windows featured on HGTV's Designing Spaces. And don't forget, this month, you can save 50% on all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments until 2028. Get a free quote at windownation.com. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
The 3-1 pitch. Hassell swings and rips one. Deep right center field. Way back it goes and gone. Hassell pounds a home run to right center, and the Wings have cut that deficit in half immediately. One batter into the bottom of the first.
All right, the corresponding roster move to the Nats on Sunday morning announcing having selected the contract of Eddie Yean from AAA Rochester was the Nats having designated outfielder Robert Hassell III for assignment. Robert Hassell III, one of the 6 players who the Nats got from the San Diego Padres in the mega trade of outfielder Juan Soto and first baseman Josh Bell to the Padres on August 2nd, 2022. It was 2022 MLB trade deadline day. Robert Hassell III, at the time of that trade, was the number 21 overall prospect in baseball per MLB Pipeline. Yes, he was that well regarded. When we talked about the haul that the Nats got in this trade, we very much included Hassell in mentioning James Wood and C.J. Abrams and Mackenzie Gore and Harleen Susana. The Padres took Hassell with the number 8 overall pick in the 2020 MLB draft out of a high school in Tennessee. But he just does not perform well. Hassell has played in the MLB regular season in just one season. Last season, he for the Nats at the major league level last regular season, 70 games, 206 plate appearances, OPS of just 572. The Nats this past March 19th announced having optioned Hassell to AAA Rochester, and he for Rochester this season has struggled. 63 games, 258 plate appearances, OPS of just 593. The Nats are loaded with promising outfielders at the major league level and in the team's farm system. And so Hassell became expendable, and this ends up being one of these things where upon first glance, you're like, wow, they DFA'd Robert Hassell. And then I feel like when you think about it, it maybe isn't so surprising that the Nats DFA'd Robert Hassell.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I actually had thought about him just a couple of days ago as somebody you hadn't thought about very much recently. And the conclusion that I came to was there's just no path for him to get back to the big leagues, not unless somebody got hurt. And even then, if they did, he just wasn't performing at the AAA level in a way that would demand that he be the first one to be called up if anything else did happen. You know, a year ago, it's him and Dalen Lyle, who were both brought up kind of opposite each other. They shared time sometimes. Sometimes one of them was here and one of them was at AAA. And over the course of that year, Lyle just did a lot better than Hassell. And by the time you got to this spring with the new administration in place, Lyle had established himself as, well ahead in that race between the two of them. And then when they sent Dylan Cruz down to start the year and kept Joey Wiemer on the roster instead of Hassell, that also kind of should have been a tip-off that this front office just did not view him in that same way, or was saying at bare minimum, you got to go prove yourself at AAA. And he just hasn't done it. The numbers this year were not very good. Lyle, of course, is here to stay. So is Cruz. So is Wood. So is Jacob Young. If anything happened to one of them, they would either call up Wiemer again, or they also have a guy, Christian Franklin, who was acquired from the Cubs in the Michael Soroka trade last summer. He's on the 40-man roster at AAA. They also have Andrew Pinckney, who's not on the 40-man roster, but has put up big numbers at AAA for a couple of years now. I just don't know where Hassell would have fit in to that whole equation. And so while I didn't necessarily see this one coming right now, I definitely had thought to myself, I don't know what the path for him to come back and play here is going to be. In his case, it might just be best for a change of scenery. And I would imagine somebody else claims him, or they even work out a trade. That's something you can do when you're DFA'd. Doesn't mean you just get released. I would imagine somebody else is going to pick him up, and maybe somebody who has more of an opportunity. But we always knew that there were more outfield prospects than available spots in the big league here. And it was, who's going to take them? Who's going to be the odd man out? It turned out to be Hassell. And I guess the shame of it is that they couldn't identify that sooner and maybe trade him when he would have had some value. I think at this point, he wouldn't have much.
Yeah, so the Nats are loaded with outfielders, and so many of them are doing well. So many of them are staying healthy. We've talked about the remarkable injury luck that the Nats have enjoyed, and we've even had something like what has happened with Gavin Fein, one of the guys who the Nats got in the Mackenzie Gore trade, where Fein had been viewed as a shortstop, but he this season has been playing in the outfield and playing for the Single A Fredericksburg Nationals. So the abundance of outfielders has become even more abundant, where a promising infield prospect like Fein, it looks like, is being moved to the outfield. And so now the Nats have even more when it comes to riches of outfielders. So, yeah, I mean, things really did not go in the direction of Robert Hassell.
No, and it is a question, I think, for the new front office. They inherited an excess of outfielders in their minor league system. How do you proceed forward with this? Do you wait to see who pans out from the rest of that group or not? Or do you say, let's use that as a way to go acquire something else? I felt like for several years that Mike Rizzo could have used that outfield depth in the minor leagues to help him go get a major league starting pitcher. in some way. Now, that never happened. And like I said, at this point, Hassell's trade value may have gone way down, but there are others in theory they could use in that regard. I don't know. We'll have to see how that all goes. But I don't think Wood, Lyle, and Cruz are going anywhere anytime soon. Maybe Jacob Young isn't a part of the long-term plan, although he certainly has been a big part of what they're doing right now. I don't know if you're another outfielder in this system where your path to making the big league roster in the next couple of years is going to be. And if that's the case, I don't think it would be wrong for Paul Taboni and company to at least explore what you could get for one of those guys while they still are highly touted. You'd hate to have the same thing happen where they play their way out of becoming a top prospect and now they don't have that value that could get you something really big in return.
While we're talking about this, I had this thought in, pondering what happened here with Robert Hassell III. So Brady House was supposed to be the third baseman of the future. He has been at AAA Rochester now for a while. His name really isn't coming up all that much. His numbers for Rochester aren't awful, but, he's not killing it, and he obviously did not kill it up here. Curtis Mead has taken off and run with the everyday third base job, and Curtis Mead, in case people don't know, is a young player. This is only his age 25 season. We don't know to what extent Paul Taboni would view Curtis Mead as the third baseman moving forward, but if so, what do you think about Brady House? Might he be a potential trade chip here? Or do you think the Nats would be more apt to hold on to House just to see what happens when it comes to Mead and to see, where things are at third base moving forward beyond this season?
I think you hold on at least for the rest of the year and see how this plays out. You don't know for sure that what Mead has done has been, is going to be sustainable. And let's be clear, he hasn't done as well the last couple of weeks. He's not playing quite every day the way that he was. Now, he was on fire, so you don't necessarily expect that to hold up for the long run. But we don't really know. But he is under club control, I think, for like 4 more years for them. Now, in House's case, where I think that's fascinating is this. If the team is in the race the rest of the way and they are truly trying to win, I don't know that we see Brady House back here in the big leagues this year. On the other hand, if they do fall under 500 and they are actually out of the race at some point, and maybe they even sell a couple of pitchers at the trade deadline, then I think you can make the argument, bring him back up here, let him play in August and September and find out more about what he is for the future. But I think it's pretty clear that if they are trying to win now, and at the moment they are, I don't think you're going to see Brady House up here unless he's just tearing it up down there to the extent that they feel like they need to get him up here. I think for now they're perfectly content with what they have.
Next up for the Nats is a 3-game series against the Houston Astros at Nationals Park. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Monday evening at 6:45, Miles Mikolas, but we'll see what, if anything, comes of his appeal of his 5-game suspension. Game 2 Tuesday evening at 6:45, Andrew Alvarez. Game 3 Wednesday evening at 6:45, Foster Griffin. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach them at 202-486-3535. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Don't forget, we have a website you can check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. We appreciate the support very much. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Now the set, outside target, the 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss. He struck him out on a changeup. The first major league strikeout for Eddie Yean. Congratulations. He fans Tyler Callahan, and Eddie does a nice job to strand a pair of runners to get out of the 3rd inning. Gabriel Ruiz just tossed him that baseball. He's got the souvenir for himself.